Hello everyone, let's talk about something that men don't like to talk about. That moment when you're with a woman, maybe it's your wife, your girlfriend, or someone you've been longing for, and suddenly, your body doesn't respond the way you want it to. The energy fades, the erection softens, and in that split second, you feel the room shift. It's not just physical, it's emotional. You start thinking, what's wrong with me? Is she disappointed? Does she think I'm not attracted to her? Men carry this silent pressure to always perform, as if our masculinity lives and dies in one part of our body. But here's the truth for women. Those moments are rarely just about performance. They're about presence. They're about connection. They're about whether you can stay there with her, emotionally, even when your body changes its rhythm. And this is where most men get it wrong. They panic, they pull away, they let shame take over. When in reality, those moments can become the most intimate, erotic, and even liberating experiences you've ever shared with her if you know how to handle them. Tonight, I want to show you exactly what women want you to do when you can't stay hard, not from a place of fear or apology, but from confidence, curiosity, and deep magnetic connection. You see, the moment a man loses his erection, he often believes the entire scene has collapsed. He thinks, I've failed her, I've failed myself. And in that panic, he disconnects, not just from his own body, but from hers. It's as if the entire energy of the room shrinks into one point of focus, the absence of hardness. But here's something I want you to remember. For a woman who loves you, who desires you, what matters most in that moment is not whether you can keep going, it's whether you can keep being. I've sat with couples who told me the most beautiful intimacy they've ever experienced happened in moments when the body didn't behave as expected. Why? Because the performance dropped and the real connection stepped in. It was no longer about chasing an orgasm or proving virility. It became about touching, breathing, exploring, laughing, holding each other without rushing anywhere. The first thing women want you to do when you feel yourself losing that physical edge is stay present. Do not disappear into your head. Don't start calculating when it happened last or how you'll explain it. Don't pull away to hide. Instead, let your eyes stay with hers. Let your hands keep moving on her skin. Keep your breath close to her ear. Keep speaking to her softly. Keep showing her you're still here, not as a performer, but as a man who desires her in more than one way. Presence is the antidote to performance anxiety, and presence is deeply erotic when it's real. A woman will feel it instantly, because when you keep your attention on her, on the curve of her back under your hand, on the way her breath changes when you kiss her shoulder, you send a message that says, I'm still with you, and I want to be here. The second thing women want in that moment is playfulness. This may surprise you. Many men think they have to compensate for failure by trying harder, pushing themselves to get back in the game as fast as possible. But that pressure creates tension. Tension that makes it even harder for your body to cooperate. When you introduce playfulness instead of panic, you open a door to something better. You might smile and say, looks like my body wants to slow down so I can worship you a little longer. You might shift the position, roll over with her, kiss her deeply, and explore parts of her you usually rush past. You might even make it an opportunity to talk, laugh, tease, because intimacy thrives in an atmosphere where both of you feel free, not judged. Women aren't measuring you by the minute. They're feeling the emotional climate you create. If you can turn what could have been an awkward interruption into a shared adventure, you will not lose her attraction, you'll deepen it. Now, there's another truth here. Losing your erection isn't always about arousal. Sometimes it's about stress, fatigue, hormones, medication, or even just a full stomach after dinner. Your body is a living, breathing ecosystem, not a machine you can turn on at will. But how you respond in the moment says far more about you as a lover than whether you can power through. When you stay present and playful, you create safety. And when a woman feels safe, not just physically, but emotionally, her desire expands. She becomes more open, more responsive, more willing to explore other paths. This is where you learn that sexual connection is not linear, it's circular. You can shift from one kind of pleasure to another, from penetration to oral, from kissing to whispering fantasies, from stroking her hair to holding her in silence. These moments can become a kind of erotic detour, a journey that neither of you expected, but that leaves both of you closer, more connected, and yes, sometimes even more turned on than before. Because desire isn't fragile. It doesn't vanish because one part of the body changes its rhythm. In fact, desire can deepen when you show her that nothing will make you withdraw from her, not even your own vulnerability. Men often think they must hide that vulnerability. They've been taught that showing it will make them seem less masculine. But here's the paradox. When you own your vulnerability instead of apologizing for it, it becomes part of your strength. A man who can look into a woman's eyes and stay confident, even when his body doesn't follow the script, is a man who knows his worth is bigger than his erection. And women feel that. They may not say it, but they feel it in the way their body relaxes around you. They feel it in the trust that grows. They feel it in the way they want to pull you closer instead of pushing you away. Think about this. There is a world of pleasure available to you that does not depend on staying hard every second. Your tongue doesn't lose its sensitivity. Your hands don't stop knowing her body. Your voice doesn't lose its ability to make her shiver when you tell her what you love about her in the middle of a kiss. So, the first steps when you can't stay hard are simple, but they require courage. Stay present, stay playful, and keep the focus on her, not on your fear. This shift changes everything. It transforms the moment from a problem into an opportunity for deeper intimacy. Because in the end, she doesn't just want a man who can stay hard. She wants a man who can stay with her. What most men don't realize is that women's arousal doesn't live in one single act. It's woven through the entire experience. And when you take away the pressure of having to perform in a straight line from start to finish, you open space for something far more intoxicating, sustained erotic tension. Think about the last time you truly lingered with her body without rushing toward the main event. When you kissed her as if her lips were the only thing in the world. When you traced your hand along her thigh without immediately moving further. When you watched her expression change, not because you were thrusting harder, but because you were slowing everything down. Women remember those moments. They remember the way your touch felt unhurried, the way your breath was steady, the way you seemed to be savoring her like a favorite song you didn't want to end. That's what keeps desire alive, even if your body decides to take an unexpected pause. Here's what you can do when that pause comes. Shift the spotlight. Instead of trying to force your body back into hardness, redirect your attention entirely onto her pleasure. Kiss the inside of her wrist as if it's the most sensual place you've ever touched. Move to her neck, her collarbone, the soft space between her shoulder and jaw. Use your hands not as tools to get somewhere, but as instruments to explore. And while you're doing this, talk to her, not with words that explain or apologize, but with words that seduce. Tell her what you love about the way she tastes. Tell her the sound she just made is driving you wild. Tell her you want to discover every secret place that makes her gasp. Your voice, in moments like these, becomes as powerful as your touch. Women respond to emotional stimulation just as much, sometimes more, than physical stimulation. When you speak with genuine desire, it bypasses any momentary disappointment she might feel and pulls her right back into the moment with you. Another thing most men underestimate is the power of anticipation. In our daily lives, everything is instant, we click, we get. But in the erotic world, delay is delicious. So when you can't stay hard, you can still keep her at the edge of pleasure by building anticipation. Maybe you stop kissing her just before her breath hitches. Maybe you trace her skin without touching exactly where she wants you. Maybe you make her wait for the next kiss, the next stroke, the next whisper, until her body aches for it. This isn't teasing in a cruel way. It's cultivating a hunger that only you can satisfy. And here's the secret. When a woman's mind is fully engaged in that hunger, her body responds. The pulse in her neck quickens. The flush spreads across her skin. Her breath shortens. And you've created an atmosphere where your own arousal can naturally reignite without pressure. Now, let's talk about the psychological shift this requires. Most men are trained to think that their worth in bed is measured by how long they can last, how hard they can be, and how many orgasms they can give her in a single session. But women, especially women over 30, often crave something deeper, a lover who makes them feel desired in a way that transcends mechanics. When you can show her that your desire is not conditional on whether your body is in one particular state, you become rare, you become memorable. You become the man she can relax with, knowing that even if something changes physically, you won't disappear into embarrassment or frustration. You'll stay engaged, curious, and connected. There's a story I often share with clients. A woman once told me that the best night she ever had with her partner was one where they barely had any intercourse at all. He lost his erection early, but instead of pulling away, he spent the rest of the night exploring her body as if he was discovering it for the first time. He kissed the arches of her feet. He whispered fantasies in her ear. He ran his fingertips down her spine and described what he loved about every curve. She told me, I'd never felt so wanted in my life. It was like he was in love with every part of me, not just the parts he could penetrate. That night stayed with her for years. Not because it was perfect, in the traditional sense, but because it was real. You see, in moments when your body changes course, you have two choices. You can treat it as a failure, or you can treat it as an invitation to expand the definition of sex, to redefine intimacy, to deepen your bond in ways you might not explore if everything always went as planned. One of the most powerful things you can do in these moments is to maintain eye contact. It's such a simple act, yet it has the ability to keep her anchored in connection with you. When your eyes meet, you're telling her, I'm still here. I still want you. Nothing about this changes that. Eye contact is erotic because it's vulnerable. It shows her you're not hiding. And while you're looking at her, slow your breathing, synchronize it with hers. This simple physical alignment does something profound. It tells both of your nervous systems that you're safe. Safety in turn relaxes tension. And relaxed tension is fertile ground for desire to grow again. I also want to address the elephant in the room. Sometimes your erection might not come back at all that night. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be a night lost to frustration. If you've kept the atmosphere sensual, if you've kept her feeling adored, you may find that she's deeply satisfied without penetration and even grateful that you didn't make it about fixing the problem. In fact, when you take intercourse off the table temporarily, you often discover new layers of intimacy. You may find yourself laughing together, telling each other secrets you've never shared, or exploring slow, sensual touch that doesn't have an agenda. This is the kind of intimacy that strengthens relationships because it's built on trust, acceptance, and a shared willingness to adapt. And let's not forget, your own arousal is multifaceted. Just because one part of your body isn't cooperating in the moment doesn't mean you're not turned on. Desire can be in your mind, your chest, your fingertips. It can live in the way you smell her hair, the way you press your lips to her shoulder, the way you hold her as if she belongs entirely in your arms. So, the key is to stop thinking of these moments as detours and start seeing them as alternate routes. Routes that may take you through landscapes you've never visited together. Routes that may be slower, but far more scenic. When you understand this, you realize something liberating. Staying hard is not the ultimate measure of being a great lover. Staying connected is. And when you master that, you'll find that the pressure lifts, your body often responds more naturally, and she feels cherished in a way that keeps her coming back to you, not just for sex, but for the way you make her feel as a woman. When you're with a woman and the unexpected happens, when your body softens, when the momentum changes, what she feels in those first few seconds is often shaped less by biology and more by psychology. It's not the loss of erection that defines the moment, it's the loss of you. If she senses you're retreating emotionally, if your energy collapses along with your physical state, that's when she feels something missing. For many women, the fear isn't, he's not attracted to me. It's, he's ashamed, and now I have to manage his feelings instead of enjoying mine. Women are highly attuned to emotional shifts in their partner, especially in intimate settings. The slightest withdrawal, the subtle change in your breathing, the way you avoid her eyes, she feels all of it. And when she feels you leaving her emotionally, she instinctively pulls back too. This is why your emotional response matters so much. If you meet that moment with calmness, even lightness, you give her permission to stay open. You communicate without words that this isn't a crisis. You're not embarrassed. You're not disappointed in her. You're simply moving with what's happening. And you still want her. One of the most powerful tools you have in these moments is reassurance. Not the, don't worry, it's fine, kind of reassurance that feels obligatory, but the kind that's woven into your touch, your words, your attention. You might brush her hair back and say, "You're making me want you so much, I need to slow down and take my time with you." Or you might keep your lips close to her ear and tell her how sexy she looks, how much you love the way her skin feels against yours. Notice that these are not explanations, they're invitations. They pull her back into desire instead of making her think about what's wrong. Because the truth is, nothing has to be wrong. Sometimes the body just has its own rhythm, and when you stop fighting it, you can actually create a richer, more connected experience. Now let's talk about reading her cues. A woman's comfort and excitement in this situation will be reflected in her body language. If she's still leaning into you, still touching you, still meeting your gaze, she's telling you she's with you. Keep the energy flowing, keep exploring her. If she's gone a little still, if her body tenses, if she looks away, she may need a moment of emotional anchoring. That's where you bring her back with connection, with playfulness, with attention that reminds her she's still the center of your desire. This is also where emotional intelligence comes in. Women often carry their own insecurities into bed. If she notices your erection fading, her mind might whisper, "Am I not enough? Did I do something wrong? Is he not attracted to me anymore?" Even if she doesn't say it, that doubt can creep in quickly. Your job isn't to lecture her about physiology. It's to drown that doubt in undeniable proof that she's wanted. That proof can come in the form of the way you kiss her like you can't get enough, the way your hands wander with curiosity, the way you murmur her name with a kind of reverence. One thing I want you to understand is that erotic connection thrives on acceptance. When you accept the moment as it is, not trying to rush through it, not trying to fix it, you create a rare kind of freedom. That freedom allows both of you to play, to improvise, to discover sensations that get overlooked when sex follows a rigid script. Some of the most memorable erotic moments happen outside the traditional structure of intercourse. Picture lying together, her head on your chest, your fingers tracing lazy patterns on her back while you share a fantasy you've never told anyone. Or laughing together after you both fumble a position change, and that laughter melting into a kiss that takes you somewhere entirely new. These are the moments where desire becomes layered, with comfort, with affection, with unpredictability. I remember a couple who told me that one of their most intense nights together started with failure. In the conventional sense, he couldn't stay hard, and instead of forcing it, he started massaging her shoulders. That led to him slowly undressing her without rushing. Then they moved into the shower together, where he washed her hair, kissed her neck under the water, and whispered things he'd been too shy to say before. By the time they made it back to bed, Both of them were so deeply in tune with each other that the lack of erection barely mattered. They were vibrating with connection. The truth is, when you take pressure off performance, you unlock creativity. And that creativity can be deeply erotic because it's personal. It's the two of you writing your own script in real time. Now, here's another layer, how you handle the after. Let's say you've both decided to end the physical side for the night. Maybe she's fully satisfied, maybe she isn't, but what happens next matters. If you roll away silently, you create distance. If you make a joke that feels self-deprecating, you plant a seed of awkwardness. But if you pull her close, kiss her forehead, and keep talking to her about anything, you maintain the intimacy that was built. And intimacy is what women crave long after the physical act ends. When you handle these moments with confidence and warmth, you also create a powerful feedback loop. The next time it happens, she won't tense or pull away. She'll remember that last time was still beautiful, and her comfort will, in turn, make it easier for you to relax and possibly regain your arousal naturally. This is why I tell men your erection is not the most important part of your sexuality. Your presence is. If you can be fully present with her, even when your body isn't at its peak, you become the kind of lover she trusts completely. That trust makes her more open, more responsive, more adventurous, because she knows you won't vanish the second things deviate from the script. And when a woman trusts you like that, something magical happens. She starts to see sex as a space where anything can happen, where she can let go completely without fear of judgment. That's when you find yourselves exploring new sensations, experimenting with fantasies, and discovering pleasures you didn't even know existed. So, when you can't stay hard, think of it not as a closed door but as an open window. A window into her deeper desires, into the emotional landscapes you can travel together, into the kind of eroticism that lingers long after the lights are out. The man who understands this never feels powerless in bed, because he knows his power isn't limited to one part of his body. It's in his ability to make her feel seen, wanted and cherished in every part of us. The truth is, you can respond beautifully in the moment, but if every time you go into the bedroom you're secretly carrying the fear that you might lose your erection, that fear will eventually become the silent third person in the room. You'll find yourself scanning for signs that it might happen, tightening up, holding your breath, moving too quickly, all in an attempt to outrun something that's actually better faced head on. So here's where we step into the long game, not just damage control, but building a sexual foundation so solid that even if you lose an erection now and then, it doesn't shake you. In fact, it barely matters. Because you've cultivated a kind of mastery that allows you to stay present, erotic, and confident no matter what your body is doing in a given moment. The first pillar of that mastery is relaxation. I'm not talking about lying limp on the couch. I mean training your nervous system to stay in a state of deep, open ease when you're naked, aroused and exposed. Most men don't realize how much tension they carry in their jaw, their shoulders, even their pelvic floor. That tension chokes blood flow, shortens breath, and makes the erection feel like something you have to hold on to for dear life. One way to undo this is through slow breathing, not the shallow, anxious kind, but deep, full breaths that expand your belly. Try this next time you're with her when you feel arousal rising. Instead of pushing forward faster, pause and take a slow inhale, imagining you're pulling the air all the way down to your hips. Exhale just as slowly, letting your body sink into hers rather than tense up. You'll notice two things: your body starts to respond more naturally, and she feels you becoming more present. The second pillar is awareness. Most men have been conditioned to focus almost entirely on what their penis is doing during sex. Every little fluctuation in hardness becomes a cause for panic or relief. But when you expand your awareness to your whole body and hers, you dilate the pressure on that one point of focus. Notice the heat of her skin under your palms, the scent of her hair, the rhythm of her breath. The more data your mind is taking in from the moment, the less mental space there is for self-doubt to creep in. This awareness is also a skill you can develop outside the bedroom. Practices like mindfulness meditation or even slow, mindful workouts teach you how to stay in your body rather than in your head. The more you train that skill in everyday life, the easier it becomes to stay grounded during intimacy. The third pillar is energy cultivation. Now, I'm not going to talk to you about mystical tantra in a way that feels abstract or inaccessible. But I will tell you this: your sexual energy is not just what's happening between your legs. It's the sum of your desire, your attention, your touch, your voice, your presence. You can feed it daily by doing things that make you feel alive and embodied. Exercise that builds stamina, not just strength. Movement practices like yoga or dance that keep you flexible and aware of your body. Even simple things like standing in the shower and letting your hands roam your own body, not to arouse yourself, but to get familiar with your own skin, your own sensations, without rushing. The fourth pillar is reframing the definition definition of sex itself. If you define good sex only as intercourse that ends with your orgasm, you've set yourself up for constant measurement and comparison. But if you redefine sex as any erotic connection that leaves you both feeling more alive, more connected, and more desired than before, it becomes impossible to fail. Some of your most intense nights might involve little or no penetration at all, and yet you'll both go to sleep with a smile, feeling closer than ever. Now, I know some men will say, that sounds nice, but I still want to perform physically. And that's valid. Physical performance matters. It's part of the fun. Which brings me to the fifth pillar, training your body for endurance and recovery. Erections are fundamentally about blood flow. The better your cardiovascular health, the better your erections. That means consistent physical activity that gets your heart rate up. Running, swimming, cycling, even brisk walking can directly improve your sexual stamina. Strength training, especially for your core and lower body, supports pelvic stability and blood flow as well. There's also diet. Foods that support vascular health like leafy greens, berries, fatty fish, nuts can make a noticeable difference over time. Hydration matters too. Even mild dehydration can impact sexual performance. And finally, rest. I can't stress this enough. Your sexual energy is tied directly to your overall energy. Chronic sleep deprivation, high stress, and burnout are erection killers. If you're constantly running on empty, your body is going to prioritize survival over reproduction, and that shows up in the bedroom. Now here's where the mental side comes back in. Even if you train your body, there will still be times when things don't go according to plan. The mastery here isn't just in prevention, it's in adaptability. If you've been practicing staying relaxed, staying aware, staying engaged, you can take those moments in stride. You won't see them as the end of the night. You'll see them as a shift in the rhythm, an opportunity to change the music, to surprise her, to explore something different. And this adaptability has a profound effect on her. She stops seeing you as a man who performs for her and starts seeing you as a man who creates experiences with her. That's a subtle but powerful difference. One is about meeting expectations. The other is about writing your own erotic story together every time. When you think about it, the couples who stay passionately connected over decades aren't the ones who never face challenges in the bedroom. They're the ones who turn those challenges into catalysts for deeper connection. They don't cling to one definition of how sex should be. They evolve together. And here's something else: when you remove the pressure to stay hard at all costs, you actually increase the likelihood that you will stay hard. Performance anxiety is one of the biggest contributors to erectile changes. When you know deep down that you can still give her an incredible experience no matter what, that pressure dissolves. Your body stops bracing for failure, and arousal flows more freely. So, think of this long-term work as building both a safety net and a springboard. The safety net catches you when things shift unexpectedly, so you don't fall into shame or panic. The springboard launches you into new territory, where every night can be different, where intimacy is never just a routine, and where you both know that pleasure is something you co-create, not something you measure. When you live in that space, losing an erection becomes about as significant as the music skipping for a second during a dance. You notice it, maybe you smile, and then you just keep moving, because the dance isn't over. When you strip everything away, the tips, the techniques, the breathing, the touch, what really remains is the truth about intimacy. It's not a performance, it's a connection. And connection is not measured by how long you can keep an erection, but by how deeply you can make another human being feel wanted, safe, and desired in your presence. The men who leave the deepest imprint on a woman's memory are not the ones who never faltered. They're the ones who stayed when the script changed. They're the ones who looked her in the eyes and said, "Without words, I still want you. I'm still here. Nothing has changed between us except the way we're touching right now." That kind of reassurance doesn't just save the moment, it makes it unforgettable. And here's the beautiful paradox: when you can meet these moments with confidence and curiosity instead of panic, you actually create more space for your body to respond. Because now your arousal isn't being strangled by pressure, it's being fed by the intimacy you're creating. Your body starts to remember that sex is play, not a test, and play is the most natural, powerful aphrodisiac there is. But I also want to talk about what this does for you, not just for her. When you stop seeing your masculinity as something that lives or dies in your ability to stay hard, you liberate yourself from years, maybe decades, of silent anxiety. You start to realize that your worth as a lover is not fragile. It's not something that can disappear in 30 seconds. It's rooted in the way you make her feel, in the trust she has with you, in the way you carry yourself in every moment of intimacy. And that freedom changes everything. Suddenly, you're not chasing validation through performance. You're creating experiences. You're improvising. You're laughing. You're taking risks. You're letting your hands wander without an agenda. And ironically, that's when your erections often become stronger, last longer, and return faster, because now they're fueled by excitement, not fear. I've worked with men who told me that before. They dread sex if they thought there was a chance they wouldn't deliver. But after learning how to handle these moments with presence and play, They began to look forward to intimacy in a completely different way. They stopped worrying about whether the night would be successful and started focusing on what they could create together in the moment. And that shift didn't just improve their sex lives, it deepened their relationships. Women feel that shift immediately. She can tell when you're with her for the experience, not just the outcome. She can feel it in the way you kiss her without rushing. She can see it in your eyes when you pause to take her in. She can hear it in your voice when you tell her exactly what's turning you on about her right now. This is why for many women, the most erotic men they've ever been with weren't necessarily the most physically perfect, or the youngest, or the ones with the most endurance. They were the ones who made them feel utterly and completely desired, who made them forget about time, who created a space where their own bodies could respond without pressure. Now, let me be clear, this isn't about ignoring physical health. Taking care of your body will always be part of being a confident, capable lover. But what we've been talking about in these 5 parts goes deeper than that. It's about reclaiming control of the story you tell yourself in the bedroom. Because here's the real danger. If you interpret every loss of erection as a failure, you start to wire that into your identity. You start thinking, this is who I am now. This is what I can't do anymore. And those beliefs are far more damaging than the physical event itself. They seep into your confidence, your self-image, even your willingness to initiate intimacy. But if you reframe those moments as neutral, just a shift in the rhythm, then they lose their power to define you. They become part of a larger, richer sexual repertoire. You start to see yourself not as a man who sometimes can't, but as a man who always can, because your capacity to create pleasure, connection, and desire is not limited to one physical function. And that's what women want most in these moments. Not an apology, not an explanation, not a frantic attempt to fix. They want you to stay, to keep your hands on them, to keep your eyes on them, to keep your energy focused on the connection you're sharing. Because when you do that, you turn what could have been a moment of distance into a moment of closeness. I want you to imagine this. You're with her and you feel your body softening. You smile, not because you don't care, but because you do care. And you know it doesn't have to ruin anything. You pull her closer, kiss her slowly, tell her she smells incredible. Your hands move over her in ways that make her shiver. You let yourself enjoy her, explore her, without needing to prove anything. She feels your presence in every breath, every touch. And by the time you're lying together afterward, whether your body came back to full arousal or not, she's looking at you with a softness that says, I've never felt this close to you before. That's power. That's mastery. And it's available to you right now. Not after months of training, not after perfecting some new technique, but in the very next moment you choose to stay instead of retreat. Because the truth is, great lovers aren't remembered for their perfect, uninterrupted performance. They're remembered for the way they made someone feel. They're remembered for their generosity, their creativity, their ability to turn the unexpected into something beautiful. So the next time you find yourself in that moment, remember you are not powerless. You are not broken. You are not less of a man. You are simply being given an opportunity to show her and yourself that sex is more than mechanics. It's the art of connection, and you have everything you need to master it. And when you start living that truth, something remarkable happens. Not only does your confidence grow, but so does hers. She starts to trust that she can fully surrender to the experience, knowing that no matter what happens physically, the emotional and erotic connection will remain intact. That trust will carry into every kiss, every touch, every whispered word between you. That's the kind of intimacy that doesn't just survive challenges, it thrives because of them. And that's the kind of intimacy that makes you unforgettable. So stay. Touch her, look at her, desire her out loud. Let the moment be what it is and make it yours, because in the end, that's what women want you to do.